So I'm going to talk about, first of all, how we sort of migrated to a QGIS. We just come to the final stages of it now, and then I'm just going to sort of talk about some of the issues I've had. So for us, we only had 20 mapping for 7 licenses, and then 3 mapping for 12 licenses with 1 concurrent. So really, the jump between mapping for 7 to QGIS was phenomenal. I didn't have to sell it to the GS users at all. And also, I suppose, the good thing about just having maybe 20 power users is that you know, it is a small number really. So for me, I could actually migrate quite easily and quite quickly. But on top of that as well, we had a program called ProPrinter, which was based on sort of mapping for viewer, and about 25, maybe 30 users used that as well. And on top of that, we got like thousands of tab files. And in 2011, we sort of restructured our entire network, got rid of duplicate data, sorted our data, and so we knew all our data was in good condition from that point onwards. So having sort of pre-sorted our data, we could sort of move on to the stage as well of actually migrating to PostGIS as well. So this is what we wanted to achieve really. We wanted all of our data in one area, which would like sort of feed to web maps, to a planner system, to a viewer, to a desktop GIS, and so on. And QGIS was the answer for us, because we can also configure QGIS to be a viewer, get rid of all the save as functionality, get rid of the editing functionality, and really have it as a viewer as well as a desktop GIS. So really, it was a two-way migration, as I mentioned, and the first one was the PostGIS. So we only wanted to keep clean data or core data stored in PostGIS. So what we said is if it wasn't Inspire, if we wanted to feed into our planning systems or to web maps and so on, it's considered as core data. And also if it was used by multiple members of our staff. Where with the rest of the data then, we just said, you know, if there's one-off data sets, if it's data sets used just within departments, and they edit it, we convert it to a shapefile. But otherwise, a lot of the data, which just gets read in, doesn't get edited anymore, have just remained as tab files. And then if someone wants to edit it, one by one, we can sort of convert it to maybe a shapefile. And again, if someone creates a shapefile and then they want to share it, we put it into the database and so on. And the next bit really was migrating to QGIS, and I started doing this myself a couple of years ago. I tried not to use mappinfo or ArcGIS, which I have on my desktop PC, and I tried to use QGIS for everything. So before that, I set up my print composers, my projects. So I got my aerials working in there, my master map working in there. And once I did that, I could really use it for like everyday tasks. But I did have to talk to the GIS users before I got to this stage. And I think that was the key. I involved them in presentations and talks, and really involved them in the decision making of migrating, or made them think that anyway. And then just by doing that, it sort of sparked enthusiasm and so on, and everybody, or nearly everybody, was on board and understood what was being sort of done. Then we had to sort of migrate the core data to PostGIS, and that is well underway, but we still have a duplicate of tab files on our GIS network, and that's only because we trained up our QGIS users in stages, and of course we had to wait for everybody to be trained until we could remove the tab files. So we've done that now, and in fact I think I set a date that next week the tab files will be inaccessible, and once that's done, then I'll be confident that people are only using PostGIS. I'm pretty confident anyway, because I've given one-to-one talks with people after training and made sure they are using it, and I'd help them as much as possible. So there is a lot of demand on yourself as a GIS person, and you have got to put in the time for that and sort of be there on their beck and call really, just so they use it. I've removed most mappinfo. I've used an automatic script with IT, and basically I've said, from your training date, I'll come and see you, show you how to use PostGIS and so on, and then 6 weeks from now, mappinfo is going to be gone, and that's worked fine. And 6 weeks is short, but 6 weeks is what they had. And ProPrinter, that can't be used with our database, so that's more or less fizzled itself out. So the next stage is to then roll out QGIS as a viewer to non-GIS users, just so that they can get value from data just by viewing it. But you know, there were challenges along the way. When I first opened up QGIS a few years ago, I just assumed you'd be able to edit tab files. Learned it didn't, so I thought that's going to be an issue. So I had to come over that. That again, with Inspire and wanting to get things on the web, made me want to migrate to PostGIS. So that just hurried things along, which is great really. And there's no trace tool, and there's no support here. That I said there's collaborations between groups, as we discussed with the plugins earlier. If we collaborate together, you don't really need that edge or mapping for support. Everybody will know something different. And again, like I said, it's high demand on my time, so you've really got to plan ahead of this, just to make sure that you can meet the demands, and really you've got to forget some of your work, which is not easy to do, or or you got to find another way of managing. And then again, it crashes occasionally. It happens, but then ArcGIS used to crash on me occasionally as well. So we just save regularly. We identify what's causing the crash. If users do experience a crash, they do get in touch with me. Okay, let's try to recreate that event. Did it crash? Yes. Okay, we'll avoid using that, say, that plugin, and so on. You can't get everything for free, so we invested somewhere. There's only me and GIS, and we don't have an IT development team, so we paid an external company to set up GIS server for us and PostGIS. And also we invested in FME, which helped the loading and sort of sorting of data, and it's going to be a valuable tool for us for other things as well in the future. And training, I'm not very good at giving training. I'm not very good at explaining things, so we invested in training. I'm going to carry on investing in training. You might have a great team and you might be able to do this internally, great, but for us, we had to invest somewhere, and this is where we invested. And so I'm just going to show you now the PostGIS setup. So I tried to set up our schemas to look like the network before. So before we sort of had like access folders, addressing folders, heritage and so on. So I tried to make it as familiar as possible to the users. Then for external data sets, I put an underscore, so we know that's the external data set. So I've worked with the Biodiversity Information Service, and this data is coming in from their server, so I'll take an update using FME from their web feature services, and I'll do that maybe every quarterly, and that saves me processing data, and hopefully we can start to do that with other external bodies when they are ready to deliver data in this way. Just takes out the middleman then. And again, with these schemas, not everybody can see them. If I connect in QGIS, people can only view the data using this all staff login. And again, sensitive data like the ones from Biodiversity Information Service, you can't access at all. So, you can protect data and so on, and it's a very good way of doing that. That's pretty much it from me. So I'll just pass you on to Kevin now.
Thanks, Shaun. Yeah, our situation in Neath Port Talbot is similar to Shaun's. I think, Shaun, you talked to us after we'd made the move. I think when we had initial chat with you. Slightly different. We're an ex-Esri site, obviously, with quite a few products in use and still in use by some of our teams. Our approach was, in a way, more flexible. We basically said that we're never going to force anybody off Esri, but we're trying to get it to coexist for the time until they are ready and their business is ready to move. And it's typical, really, of what happens is Mike over there in the network management team, they're really inundated with work. They've had staff losses, and they just haven't got the time to sit down and learn something new at this point in time. So we understand that, so we're helping them move along at the pace that they want to move. But in general terms, we've moved on to over 100 QGIS users trained. Some have been trained by myself, some by Tom, some by Swansea. But we haven't engaged with a third-party trainer yet for QGIS, but I know there are some out there. We've got PostGIS database similar to Shaun's. It's all themed, similar type of setup, and we've got nearly 500 layers, 497 to be precise. We've used FME a lot in the early days, and we still use FME for lots of things. It's an incredibly powerful tool. So that's about the biggest thing that we've invested in is 2-3 licenses of FME desktop bought through Dotted Eyes. That's been absolutely superb for us, so I won't go on with that because I sound like a salesman for it. The gazetteer system, although we couldn't show it today, has made a massive difference. It's a real gazetteer linking into anything. In the PostGIS database, we now have feature-level editing, multi-user, with version control. With our previous setup, we basically used ArcSD as a very expensive bucket, really, but we didn't really make use of its spatial elements. It was just one place to store things. Didn't make a big use of multi-user editing, because we only had four ArcEditor licenses there. So on the new system now, we have over 100 users that can share data and multi-user edit as well. We've expanded GIS into all parts of the authority, social services, education, and places that never had GIS before. So that's been a big help to us, and the indirect savings in the authority must be there. It's got to be there somewhere. We've saved, I won't go into the licensing cost we've saved, but it's substantial. We worked out between, I think, Steve's just written a paper for the, I'll have to mention this because it gives him a bit of kudos. He's got a paper that's gone into the AGI, and tomorrow he's been shortlisted for the, as a finalist for the open source collaboration. So we're going up to London tomorrow, hopefully come back with a trophy. So it's quite, you know, there's quite a lot being done here. The PG routing we're looking at the moment, we've been discussing this with Pete from Modern Survey, and Steve's working on this from Swansea. We don't know whether it's going to be good enough for us, but we have alternatives in possibly Routeware and working in interfacing QGIS with Routeware as well. And I've talked to Martin Hodder from Higher Mapping Solutions on that one. So that's a plan B. If we don't get PG routing to work, we still got a plan B, which is look at a commercial offering but integrate it with QGIS. QGIS is very good at using OGC compliance services like WMS, WFS and so on. And I've just connected, we just managed to connect to Get Mapping's PSMA data service from here. So I'll show you that as well, because it's very slick and very fast. And similarly, Aston do the same thing. We connect to services from other Inspire sites, EA, Land Registry we've recently using. So it's very nice and easy to connect to these different data sources. It does, the whole package forms a basis for Inspire. So our infrastructure now is Inspire ready. That's all we've got to do now is put the work in to get the data sets and metadata collected. But that's another area. But our platform is ready for Inspire, and we're happy with that. And that's what it provides for you if you go down the GeoServer PostGIS QGIS route. We're not using QGIS in the way that Shaun's using it as a viewer, because we had developed an in-house open layers web mapping application for viewing and a simple GIS, but it's a perfectly feasible way and a good way to go forward. There's no development, it's just roll it out. And you can tailor the way it looks and feels, so that's pretty good. We mentioned support, so I won't go into that anymore, but we do feel that we get far better support than we ever did before from the commercial offerings. So we're at that point at the moment. We're expanding QGIS into other areas. We're working with people like our network management highways team to move down a path that's comfortable for them. We've still kept some ArcGIS desktop licensing. We have got rid of ArcSD because to justify keeping spending £67,000 a year on something that's a bucket for storing data is not really not the type of thing we do at the moment. On top of that, I have £22,000 Oracle licenses to run it on, so it does tend to get a bit pricey then for something that we're not really using properly, never have. So we've really have moved on now, and we are, I think, moving in the right direction, and it's proven to be successful for us. I mean, you can get views from our users over there. They might throw things at me, but I think they feel the same. It's pressures of work and things like that. That's fair enough. You know, it's difficult to move on if you haven't got enough time to sit down and learn something new. But we'll help them with that. And obviously, the other picture then is the suppliers as well with exegesis, and other suppliers that we're working with, like SDM Environmental. Their system is going to be connecting to QGIS. They have a version coming out in the next year, and I think I'll leave the exegesis talk about their future with QGIS as well later on. But the suppliers are starting to pick this up now because there's obviously a massive audience, potential customers that are going down the open route, and why wouldn't you do it? So we are making some movements there. As I say, we trained over 100 users in 1.8 and 2. We're running on both thick and thin client. Quite a lot of our users are on Citrix, and that runs okay. Arc never did. That was too heavy. It's too heavy a footprint. QGIS Core is lighter, runs on less high spec, lesser spec machines, and that's where it runs in thin client. We're running on Windows tablets, and we've got an fairly ancient device I dug out of the cupboard a couple of days before we came. Said, oh, put QGIS on that and pass it around, and Tom's done that. He's got SQLite database with raster on it as well, so you can have a little look at that if you like. But if you can get it run on that, you can get it run on anything really. As we've touched on, our spatial databases. As I said before, if you haven't got PostGIS, then use Spatialite. We are using it against Oracle Spatial as well, and because that's legacy, we have LLPG in there. Integrated back office systems, as well as Gazetteer plugins. We've done other things for back office systems, and as I said, touched on the disciplines now using it far more than before. Our LDP local development plan was produced entirely with QGIS and then put onto our web mapping. So that was a good project that just used QGIS for everything. And the whole of our planning team had a copy of QGIS each. Can't remember how many, can you? So
no, it was 10, 12
10,
of them.
12. And they produced all of their layers through QGIS. So that's where we are at the moment. I could go on a lot more into detail. If you want more detail on cost savings and any other issues, I can, just get in touch with me and I can give you that. But QGIS has formed a key part of our open source solution, and I think you need to look at it that way, not in isolation. Talking to Mike Sant earlier, he said it's dead right really. People try to use QGIS, given up on it because they haven't got a decent back end, got a spatial database, or not realising they can use Spatialite, and then just dropped it then as not an option. I think you would be wise to look at it with a decent spatial database, whether that's PostGIS, Oracle Spatial, SQL Server, or whatever.
Just to add to that, I know Matt's asked them to provide a portal GIS solution.
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is QGIS wrapped up with PostGIS and Matt's
That's right.
which is really good for anyone starting off.
Yeah, the full package. Yeah,
Basically install it locally within minutes on the machine and away it goes.
that's right.
With videos.
Yeah. If you want to try there's an OSGeo Live virtual machine. If you want to try it out, the full package, you can download that from, I've looked at Phosphor-G and it's on there, and that's quite good because you can just boot it up and it runs Ubuntu and it's got all the elements in it, and if you want to play with that. Obviously, the other thing we haven't mentioned, this is available for everyone outside the work as well as inside, which it's a slight advantage if you can't afford an Esri license at home. So it's available to everyone. Use the OS Open data. That's what I've been doing at home, and it works really well. I run it on Ubuntu. I was talking to Tim earlier that we are big Ubuntu fans and Linux fans anyway. So we don't run it on Windows, but it'll run on a Mac, it'll run on Android, it'll run on Windows 8, it'll run on anything really. So you can play with it at home as well if you need to, which is an advantage. So that's where we are in Neath Port Talbot. We are working on a collaborative project across South West Wales, as I mentioned earlier, and that's for general open source, and that's what Steve's paper has detailed for the AGI, not just QGIS. There's only one part of it. So hopefully, with a bit of luck, we might get our expenses paid tomorrow if we win. But if you want to read, it's a brilliant paper that you've written. Absolutely superb, really good. So I'm going to be feeding back from here into the UK group as well. So I need people's feedback on the way they think they want this to go and to shape it in the future. But I think it's definitely got a future. The user group, that is, QGIS definitely has. But I think the user group, I think, has a future, and I'll be welcoming your feedback from this today. See what you think, really. Next on our agenda, I think.